I'll play the clips in just a moment. As you know, Hurricane Harvey hit Texas last night, one of the biggest hurricanes in over a decade, so of course it's the biggest news story on, well, actual news networks. But CNN couldn't stop complaining about President Trump. Also Friday night, President Trump pardoned Sheriff Joe Arpaio after a liberal activist judge indicted him for contempt of court for actually enforcing our country's immigration policies. And President Trump also banned transgenders officially from the military, in what is undoubtedly one of the greatest news dumps in the history of news dumps, putting CNN in a conundrum. Are they going to cover this massive hurricane as it's making landfall, like all cable news channels do, non-stop every time there's a major hurricane? Or are they going to continue to complain about President Trump? Let's tune in and find out. Here's a real news channel, Fox News, as the hurricane is making landfall.
You can see there, most of the eye wall is now on shore. What should we expect within the next few hours? Let's check in with Fox News meteorologist Adam Clark. Adam?
Hey there, John.
Well, of course they're covering the hurricane, especially as it's making landfall at this very moment. Now, let's flip over to CNN, and what you're going to see here is a screen capture of me literally changing the channel. These aren't videos taken at different times. I'm literally doing a live screen capture, and we flip over to CNN, and this is what they're talking about.
Hey there, John.
Opportunity to enforce the law again.
Well, let's talk about what we know. The former sheriff was found guilty of criminal contempt for disregarding a...
What the hell are you complaining about President Trump for? There's a massive hurricane striking Texas right now! Oh, it gets even better. Just stick with me for a moment. Now, administrations will often do what's called a news dump on Fridays, which means that they will release controversial information because it's a weekend, not a lot of people are paying attention to it, and they're hoping that by the time Monday comes around, things will kind of cool off, and it won't be getting the constant coverage that it would have gotten if it was released, let's say, like on a Monday, Tuesday, or a Wednesday. So President Trump has pulled off probably the greatest news dump in the history of news dumps by pardoning Sheriff Joe Arpaio, not only just on a Friday, but during hurricane coverage, and then implementing the transgender ban. So not only did CNN cut away from their hurricane coverage to complain about this, but they actually said that President Trump, instead of trying to avoid the coverage, which is exactly what he was trying to do by doing the news dump on a Friday and ingeniously in the middle of a hurricane, but CNN said instead that he's trying to hijack the hurricane coverage.
You know, Brian Stelter, we were talking about the notion of a Friday night news dump. Traditionally, when you talk about that, you think people are trying to hide information, try to reduce the coverage of it. So is it that, or is this the president trying to hijack the coverage of the hurricane?
It feels like the opposite of a news dump, meaning try to hide something. The president seems to want the attention on these stories and not on that hurricane on the other side of your screen.
What the hell are you talking about? Look at how conflicted this moron is. He knows that right now there's a Category 4 hurricane hitting Texas, but they still can't stop complaining about President Trump.
Just to be clear, 130-mile-per-hour winds will take down houses. There will be massive storm surge into Port Lavaca and Rockport in the next couple of hours. We're talking about thousands of people who, if they're still in their homes, need to be in bathtubs with a mattress on top of them. It's a Category 4 hurricane. And I know FEMA has said they're ready. I know the Department of Homeland Security has said that it's ready. The president has tweeted the right things earlier in the day about the storm as it's gained strength. But he does seem to be trying to make other headlines for some reason.
Little Brian Stelter, you're the senior media analyst at CNN, and you don't even know what a news dump is? He's not trying to get more headlines, he's trying to avoid them, you idiot! Maybe White House correspondent Jim Acosta can bring some sanity to this story. Jim?
And hopefully the president won't be tweeting about fake news as much, as many Americans will be relying on the news.
People are relying on the news. People's lives are at risk. They may lose their homes and everything that they own, and your network is still complaining about President Trump. Here's Brian Williams over at MSNBC, insinuating that people may die in the hurricane because they don't believe MSNBC when they say how dangerous it is because President Trump has been calling them fake news.
Earlier today, Jim Acosta over at CNN said on the air, this is why the fake news label is so pernicious, because we in the news business tonight really need the people along the coastline in Texas, really need them to heed these warnings. We're not making up these stats from the hurricane hunters, the brave people who tonight are flying through the center of this storm. We're not making up these forecasts or the inches of rain they're expecting. But this is all of a piece. This is all a kind of slow motion attack on some of the aspects of our society.
Hurricane Harvey is literally making landfall at this exact moment, and they're complaining about President Trump calling them fake news. Let's check back in with a real news station and show MSNBC and CNN what actual hurricane coverage is supposed to look like.
I think we're getting the worst of it right now from this side of the storm. This is the weaker side of the hurricane, so you can imagine north of the eye in places like Rockport what they're feeling. We could see with Category 4 physical destruction of well-made houses and all trees down and snapped. This, along with the flooding and along with the loss of power. Wow.
You see, this is real news, CNN, and this is why we call you fake news. I'm Mark Dice, thanks for watching. Subscribe to my channel if you're new. Check back here every day for new reports. I hope you'll check out my new online store where you can get a You Are Fake News t-shirt and all sorts of other cool stuff. Check the link in the description below. Your purchase helps keep this channel running. Thanks for your support, guys. Stay tuned, and I'll see you soon.